Hello everyone and welcome to my review of the 5th episode from The Witcher show on Netflix. If you've missed any of the previous ones, feel free to check the link to the full playlist down in the description. Also, despite me warning for major spoilers, I still have people voicing their complaints about spoilers in these videos, so let me make it clear. There may be absolutely enormous spoilers in this video about the shows, about the games, the books, everything, so be warned. Alright. First off, we see some skin in a jar, and initially I thought it was a sorcerer doing some nasty magic similar to what we saw Fringilla do in the last episode. Then the camera pans up, and call me crazy, but my first thought upon seeing this guy admiring himself in the mirror was that he's actually Istrid. You know, after undergoing a transformation similar to Yennefer's. There's something about his eyes, I guess, but it turns out it's not him. Then, handsome man Kair shows up and it is revealed that we have a Doppler on our hands. My immediate reaction was that he acts too creepy to be a Doppler, but then Kair addresses it right away and I approve of that. Well done.
You're not good-natured or helpful, are you?
And yet you are here for our help.
We see that Dimeritium works on druids as well.
A cell of Dimeritium made just for you. How does it feel to be neutered of your powers?
This isn't who you are.
Yes, Ermion, she isn't supposed to be a malicious zealot as she's portrayed here.
The white flame made me who I am.
Yes, Fringilla, blame it all on the poor hedgehog.
I found his purpose.
Okay, so they killed him. The books don't go this way, but if they have a future reason for why this scene is included, I don't necessarily mind. We'll have to wait and see.
Wouldn't happen to play Gwent, would you?
Certainly. I got my first deck, years ago, back in Sintra.
But before I move on, perhaps I should say that in addition to my concerns about Fringilla being portrayed as a little too mean, I'm starting to have similar concerns about Kair.
May all Skellige know, Yennefer of Vengerberg is a common thief!
Alright, next up, Yennefer is living off the grid with no resources. She's helping this older couple getting their relationship up, so to speak. Then we have Geralt meeting Dandelion after a long time, and once again another good scene. The two of them play very well off of each other, and it's just a joy to watch, as always.
Ness has got something to do with what the druid Mousak said to you in Sintra. You know, the law of surprise?
Under different circumstances, I would say that it's unnecessary to remind the audience why Geralt is troubled, given that the whole surprise Child of Destiny conversation was literally his previous scene, but given that enough time has passed in lore, it makes sense for the characters to say these things, and also the chronology can be a little confusing at times, so I'm fine with a little reminder like that.
You need a nap!
So, they capture a djinn, release it, Geralt suspiciously cuts his hand, and Dandelion's in trouble, so we have to seek help from our friendly neighborhood sorceress. And speaking of her, she's putting on makeup and meeting with Anna Henrietta.
You lie to our face, or you are an idiot who has had wine stolen from under his nose and not even realize.
A bit of exposition is given of who is king where, and we learn that Yennefer is looking for a cure so that she can have a baby.
You want a cure and it's making you sloppy. Why? Why do you want a baby?
And here is where I think they should have kept the book explanation of why sorceresses cannot have children, as opposed to the rather disturbing removal of the entire reproductive system that we had a couple of episodes ago. The reason why is that the original explanation was far more ambiguous, and therefore the idea of there being a cure for it seemed far more plausible to me. I know the majority of my viewers are male, so imagine that, for example, they cut off your testicles, rip off your prostate, along with some of the plumbing in between. Well, what kind of cure would you then need to be able to get a woman pregnant again?
Can't believe I'm actually doing this.
In the books, this guy was described as twice Geralt's size or something like that, but the important part of the scene they did keep.
So it does.
And now we gotta talk about something. First and foremost, in the books, this is the very first time we ever see Yennefer. This scene right here. So those of you who haven't read them can now appreciate just how much was added to her character in the show. Also, in the trailers, I thought that this scene would be the Bellatine celebration, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, even though it wasn't exactly described this way. But given that they don't have that part in the show at all, perhaps they drew some inspiration from there and put it here? Who knows? Anyway, when I was reading this chapter from the book, I already knew that the show is being made, and I was certain, beyond a doubt, that they'll change it here. And specifically, that the show will portray Yennefer in a much softer and likable way than she was originally presented. Because I must say that in the books, she's quite horrible to Geralt, in a couple of moments especially, and I had already played the games before reading the book, so I knew that many people thought that Yennefer was a bitch and treated Geralt poorly and whatnot, and despite all of that, I was absolutely stunned by some of the things she said and did and the way she said them. I just didn't expect such behavior. Well, it turns out I was right about that. She's far milder here, and you know what? I don't actually mind it. I think it's somewhat risky to repeat what the books did, and especially given the changes that they've already made to the character, you know, the tragic background, the vulnerability, the premature reveal that she wants to have a baby and so on. I think keeping it the way it was in the books would have been a way too sudden jump towards the negative, perhaps, for her character, so I actually like it the way it is. And shall we talk a bit about post-transformation Yennefer? And accept my apologies if I've already talked about it, so I'll try to be brief. First off, I have literally zero complaints about the actress's skills. She was an absolute ace as pre-transformation Yennefer. I actually liked those scenes more than I thought I would, and somewhat regretted that she will have to transform and become the Yennefer we know from the books. That is because she doesn't quite have the right look, vibe, however you want to call it, to fully portray that character. Although, as I mentioned before, she is milder now, a little different as a whole, and with that, so too is the actress a better fit. So all in all, assuming you can take the fact that she's somewhat different, I think Yennefer has been done pretty well in the show. Then we have a ragamuffin.
Ragamuffin!
Not quite as good as a ginger muffin.
My ginger muffin.
I did say I like the changes given what they've done so far, but it would have been nice to witness invisible Yennefer in the bath, foaming her invisible assets in front of Geralt, but oh well.
What was your ailment before? Clubbed foot? Split ends?
Now, Geralt in the books figured it out, you know, the hunchback part, and she noticed that too. Anyway, Yennefer then springs her softcore trap.
And I do love a good old-fashioned trap.
A good old-fashioned nap.
Mind-controlled Geralt does her dirty work off-screen, and then he's imprisoned and in love.
You're in love with her?
And I think perhaps you may understand me.
And while she is softer to Geralt, she's actually a little extra mean to Dandelion. And I suppose now is a good time to share with you a bit of criticism that I have for the source material this time. So this part, where Geralt meets Yennefer, is a chapter of the first book, and it introduces types of magic that can be incredibly useful to so many individuals in so many situations throughout the following 7 books, and yet are not brought up. Take for example Yennefer's ability to mind control Geralt the way she did it. He's a mutant, a witcher, a strong-willed individual, yet she's able to fully control him as a puppet basically, without him being able to break through or even remember anything of what he's done while under the spell. And she can maintain that for quite a while. On top of it, she can do it remotely from a comfortable distance. So if sorcerers can do this to people, why aren't they doing it more often? Especially the Lodge of Sorceresses later on. That would have made so many things so much easier for them. And when you think about how most of them are at court, being able to control kings and queens without them knowing, I mean, it's a huge deal. And also there's the djinn with the wishes. If you can just tell it that you want someone dead and they immediately die, why isn't everyone's priority to figure out how to get a hold of a djinn? You know, just something I had in the back of my mind while going through the books. And then we get to the ending sequence, which in the books was a little weird, I admit. It was also more complex and elaborate. Portals and places were involved, and more than one building was destroyed.
I want everything!
So the building collapsed, but the first floor is intact, so Geralt and Yennefer can make some sweet love on cheerful music. And there we have it. Geralt and Yennefer's love story has finally begun.
I love you, Yen.
And we cut back to Brokilon. Leaves are rustling, whispers are indistinct, spears and crossbows on the ready, and more importantly, the Doppler Ermion shows up.
What matters is I found my way back to you.
Aithne, remember the water.
All newcomers to the forest must drink the waters.
Let him drink the water.
If they bear ill intent towards Brokilon, they die.
Sadly she doesn't, so Doppler Ermion is taking Ciri out and the episode ends. Now the question is, do I go on a massive and potentially long rant about why they messed up arguably the most important part of the Sword of Destiny book, or shall I leave it for the final episode? You know, I think I'll leave it for now. And besides, we have enough food for thought with Geralt and Yennefer, and I'd rather we discuss that in the comments for now. But we'll get to the rant eventually. Okay, so we end it here. Tell me your thoughts about everything that happens and everything I said about everything. Thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to my supporters on Patreon and YouTube members. And until the review of the next episode, stay tuned and be good.
Yes, Geralt.
You know, been wanting to ask you something.
Ask me now.
Just curious. You ever play Gwent?
Oh, Geralt. Geralt.